We will begin today with the song Spirit in the Sky, written and sung by Michael J. Tamura.
Sitting on a mountain top and singing to the clouds, laughing with the wind out loud. In the vast blue of the sky, the sun smiles at me. No worries from above, I'm free. I'm as free as the morning sunrise. I'm as free as the eagle flies. I can be anything I wanna be. I'm a spirit in the sky. Playing on a rainbow slide, dancing with the rain. From all this joy I won't refrain. In the vast blue of the sky, the sun smiles at me. No worries from above, I'm free. I'm as free as the morning sunrise. I'm as free as the eagle flies. I can be anything I wanna be. I'm a spirit in the sky. Sitting on a mountain top, singing to the clouds, laughing with the wind out loud. I'm as free as the morning sunrise. I'm as free as the eagle flies. I can be anything I wanna be. I'm a spirit in the sky. I can be anything I wanna be. I'm a spirit in the sky.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dunleavy, and I'm your mistress of ceremony for this service. We are gathered here to celebrate the life and legacy of Michael J. Tamura. Welcome to friends, family, and all of the students, past, present, and future, and have come from near and far. We warmly welcome you and those who are here in spirit. We currently have hundreds of people watching this service over Zoom and Facebook from countries around the world. We ask that you give yourself the gift of being present at this service by silencing or turning off your cell phones or other buzzing, beeping, or ringing devices. Give yourself the spaciousness to be present right here and right now. You might notice that we're surrounded by trees outside this sanctuary and nature's beautiful greenery. And yes, that greenery is also reflected into this room itself. I invite you to be aware of the ground beneath your feet and to notice the chair that supports you. Give yourself a deep breath and simply allow yourself to be here now. For some of you, this room might be reminiscent of a meeting place that you are familiar with. This is a fitting place to hold Michael's celebration of life, the Universal Unitarian Society building. It's auspicious. 1, 1, twice. Oneness squared. You might notice that near this hexagon-shaped ceiling are banners with symbols that represent 26 different religions and philosophies from around the world. Michael often used passages and prayers from so many faiths. The Lord's Prayer in Aramaic was one of Michael's favorite prayers. Today, in English, Jean Rurda will sing the Lord's Prayer a cappella.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Hello, everyone. My name is 𝙒𝙗 Donaldson, and throughout today's memorial service, I have the honor and the pleasure to read 3 quotes from Michael's book, You Are the Answer, Discovering and Fulfilling Your Life's Purpose. The first quote comes from page 5. For it is from love that we are born, and to love that we must return. This is the journey of the soul we call life. To be who we are, to have all that is within us, and to fully express our divine heritage. That is our purpose for living and the destination of our journey. Our destination is our freedom, and the process of fulfilling our life purpose is to choose truth at every crossroads and to act upon it with love.
Michael J. Tamura was a modern Renaissance man. Some of you may know him as a powerfully gifted spiritual healer, clairvoyant, and teacher. However, he was also a talented musician, songwriter, storyteller, and graphic artist, as well as a multimedia artist. His passions also included scuba diving, free diving with dolphins, and baseball. Michael was an excellent cook, as well as an enthusiastic consumer of all cuisines. Yes, Michael was a foodie. Michael Tamura began this lifetime in Sendai, Japan on July 14, 1953, son of Rei and Kei Tamura. Born on the U.S. military base where his father worked, Michael was a U.S. citizen by birth. The family moved to Tokyo a few months later, and that is where Michael and his younger sister Crystal grew up. As a high academic achiever, Michael graduated from high school at the age of 16 and independently left Japan for for the U.S. to attend college, particularly interested in studying medicine. Although he was a straight-A student at UC Riverside, Michael took some time off from his pre-med studies to travel in the U.S. In the Bay Area, Michael joined an innovative hands-on LVN course at a San Francisco hospital and became an LVN at age 17. Curious about healing in a medical hospital setting, he worked as a freelance nurse for a number of years, choosing his own hours. Although he loved working with patients, especially in the psychiatric units and maternity wards, Michael found hospitals sorely lacking the kind of healing practices and energy that he saw was needed and that he wished to give. During this time period, Michael became restless and began a truly epic search for a teacher, checking out a variety of martial arts masters, philosophical teachers, and spiritual gurus. And they politely, and in a couple of cases rudely, declined. Michael persisted. Eventually, at age 20, after many surprising and sometimes hilarious adventures, he did find his teacher, Louis Bostwick, who was just starting up the Berkeley Psychic Institute, which became known as BPI. Louis Bostwick, psychically and spiritually aware since childhood, was teaching meditation, clairvoyance, trance mediumship, and spiritual healing tools, and offering opportunities to explore them in a hands-on experiential setting. In this kindergarten learning environment, all psychic abilities could be explored. Louis Bostwick's teachings and mentorship altered Michael's trajectory from pursuing a career in medicine to his becoming known as a gifted energy healer and clairvoyant reader. And under Louis's watchful eye, Michael became a teacher of beginning classes and, ultimately, a teacher of the clairvoyant training program. Within a few years, Michael was the director of the Berkeley Psychic Institute, located on Hayes Street, near the hustle and bustle of University Avenue and UC Berkeley itself. As more institutes opened in the Bay Area and throughout the state, Michael became the director of all BPI institutes in California, which involved nonstop travel and some 20-hour workdays as he dealt with financial and legal institute matters, as well as teaching BPI teachers in a year-long program. In its structure, BPI was also the seminary for the Church of Divine Man, also founded by Louis Bostwick. Michael served first as a minister in the church and eventually a bishop. In some of the pictures shown today, you may see him and other bishops in white robes at church services and events. As a teacher and bishop, Michael also led a number of international spiritual pilgrimages to work with healers in the Philippines, and he co-led trips to explore the energies of Tibet and China and Egypt and Greece. During his early days at BPI, Michael met and married Karen Kenny, a fellow BPI teacher and ultimately a fellow bishop, establishing their household in Berkeley, California. They had two wonderful sons, Greg and Nick. The institutes thrived for many years under his direction and dedicated hard work. But then Michael's course trajectory changed, and in the late 1980s, his first marriage ended, and by 1991, he was married to Raphael and working with her in Anaheim. Several years later, Michael and Raphael retired from BPI to strike out on their own as clairvoyants, spiritual healers, teachers, and eventually authors. They moved to Elk Grove, California, and started from scratch, reading and teaching classes there and at other venues such as whole life expos and metaphysical fairs. After 4 years in Elk Grove, Michael and Raphael were guided by Spirit to relocate to Parker, Colorado, where they offered private readings, healing sessions, and seminars. Travel to out-of-state and guest lectures at Mary Bell Nyman's Psychic Horizons Institute in Boulder alternated with Michael's dedicating time to writing and polishing his book, You Are the Answer, Discovering and Fulfilling Your Soul's Purpose. It was first published in 2003 through the Tamura's own Star of Peace Publishing Company, and then picked up by a mainstream publisher, Llewellyn Worldwide, in 2007. It has been translated into many languages and is still in print. Michael and Raphael returned to California after 7 years in Colorado, and through divine guidance, they were unexpectedly drawn to the sacred city of Mount Shasta, near California's northern border with Oregon, where they lived from 2003 to 2019. In this gorgeous mountain setting, Michael created special series of classes for both beginners and advanced students, which included the Healer's Apprentice, the Advanced Healer's Apprenticeship, Seeing with the Eyes of Spirit, and Psychic Tools and Life Mastery Practice for Living Your Soul's Purpose, also known as the 21-month Levels course. Ultimately, Michael merged graduates from these courses into the Seers and Healers Advanced Practice Experience, known as SHAPE. He also welcomed many graduates from year-long BPI-style training programs into the SHAPE Community Without Walls. This strong community continues today. Michael received many invitations to travel internationally to speak over the years. He was enthusiastically received in India, Switzerland, and Germany. Developing strong relationships with avid spiritual seekers in Europe, many of them became long-term students who graduated from the Levels course and became a part of the SHAPE community. Before the pandemic, Michael also traveled regularly to the farthest reaches of the American coasts. His love for Hawaii brought him to travel there almost every year to give seminars and swim in the oceans with dolphins, sea turtles, and accompanying students. On the East Coast, beloved friends and wholehearted students in Vermont would often invite him to come and talk to packed audiences when the fall foliage colors were at their most brilliant. Michael committed much of his last decades to teaching advanced classes to eager students, rather than writing other books or doing private readings. He delighted in the stories of his students' personal breakthroughs and their successes in teaching, healing, reading, and counseling their students and clients. Yet Michael was still very engaged in reaching out to newcomers through a variety of media. In 2017, he and Raphael created an online radio show on voiceamerica.com called Living the Miracle with Michael and Raphael Tamura, which has been listened to by tens of thousands of people around the world. 5.5 years of episodes on a variety of metaphysical and spiritual topics can be found in the online archives. Throughout his career, Michael has been interviewed on a wide variety of podcasts and live radio shows. His most recent interview on Alex Ferrari's Next Level Soul has, at this point, acquired more than 200,000 views. This fascinating interview, and many more, can still be accessed online. Michael was committed to fulfilling his purpose this lifetime with grace, humility, and lots of laughter. In his book, You Are the Answer, he wrote, "I came into this lifetime to heal and teach. Healing and teaching, however, are not my purposes. It is through them that I am fulfilling my purpose, which is just like everyone else's, to fully become who I am." We honor you, Michael. You did it. We will now hear a piano version of The Velocity of Love by Suzanne Ciani, accompanied by photos of Michael's life. This piece is played by Raphael's brother, Brian Kent, who could not attend today due to recent surgery. Today you will hear from a number of people sharing memories of Michael. I have a personal collage of Michael pictures and experiences that have been playing in my personal slideshow, and here are some of them. In my mid-20s, when I first met Michael, my first impression was, who is this guy? Why is he laughing so much? Is he laughing at me? Should I be offended? Toning with Michael and a small group in a chamber underneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. The resonance and tonal quality was mind-blowing. A week or so later, the whole area beneath the pyramid was declared off limits and closed indefinitely. Michael's radiant energy during healer's apprenticeship initiations. Michael going all out dressing for the annual Halloween party and participating in improv games at the October seminar, some of which we had to tell him, sit down, we don't want you to have another heart attack. Or enjoying presented skits by students so much that he fell out of his chair with laughter. And Rafi's like, wait a minute, you guys, wait. Michael's absolute delight in an early morning spent snorkeling and telepathically communicating to Honu, Hawaiian sea turtles, who were breakfasting on seagrass and algae, and offered him some. Michael giving me an impromptu long-distance healing after I sustained a major head injury in my classroom. As he quietly worked, I could feel the decrease in the swelling and bruises. And as I began to laugh about it, and Michael made awful puns and jokes, the healing continued. Knowing and studying with Michael for so many years has given me so many opportunities to remember and know who I truly am, including the fact that I'm a slow learner. It also gave me the opportunity to observe that with each almost death experience that he experienced this lifetime, Michael became more playful, more full of light, and his teaching about the higher planes evolved and moved into realms that transcend words.
Feels like a dream. Michael's saying it is a dream. Come on here. Wow, does this feel surreal? So, of course, we've all met Michael in our own unique and synchronistic ways. So the very, very short version for me is that my life partner, Kate Ash, and I drove to California from Vermont, and we lived in our van with pink flames on the sides while taking Michael's last healer's apprenticeship intensive in Mount Shasta. So we had a really amazing year of classes and continued to study with him, and ended up living in Mount Shasta, actually. And after we were on our spiritual path with Michael for about 6 years, my partner Kate was unexpectedly diagnosed with pretty advanced cancer. And I really wanted to share a significant moment in that process with you that illustrates Michael's presence in our lives. So we were at the hospital in Mount Shasta, and we had just gotten the news of her cancer earlier that particular day. And we had already had a good cry about it together. And we went outside to get some fresh air. I mean, she was even still kind of with her little IV on wheels. We kind of slowly went outside, and we found a beautiful spot with a view of the mountain and a bench. And Kate sat down and looked at me, and she said, well, good news, bad news, who knows? And, it's like we learned to trust the bigger picture by that point. And I don't know what compelled me exactly, but I wondered out loud, like, good news, right? Like, it's always good news, isn't it? And without missing a beat, Kate said, good news, if you're Michael Tamura. And, of course, we both laughed, and, then she paused and looked over at the mountain and just said yes. Like, good news. Always good news. So I share that because thanks to Michael's influence, this is how we framed her cancer diagnosis from the very, very beginning. So the next day she was released from the hospital, and we stopped at Berryville, which is the local natural food store. And we've got a parking spot right up front, pulled up. And of course, who is standing there, as if he's been waiting there for us for hours or days? But Michael, of course. And he was laughing and joking and basically saying to Kate, you better stick around for the retreat next month, because otherwise I'm going to have to go get you, and a lot of people will be very unhappy about that. So she did go to the retreat. Anyhow, he reminded us, over and over that the good news is that life continues. The good news is that we're eternal beings, and we get to learn spiritual lessons now, here, in these bodies. So for those of you who don't know what happened next, this is not the miraculous Michael healing story that you might be hoping for, and there are many of those. But Kate and I did learn that the miracle is actually in the spiritual learning and the spiritual healing rather than the physical healing. And when the body heals, it's kind of a bonus, that it's not the end goal. So that was one of the ways that learning from Michael was so significant for us, because we both knew beyond a doubt that on a spirit level, Kate was on to her next step, and she was on to the next part of her own soul's evolution, as we know Michael is now as well. So in the years after Kate had died, which actually was exactly 12 years ago today, as things would have it, I started traveling around, facilitating conversations and giving workshops about death and dying and joy and laughter, and combining all of that together because my experience was truly one of joy and connection and gratitude, not of sadness and heartache when she had died. But a bit of the background on that is while we were studying with Michael, Kate and I had both become certified laughter yoga teachers, and we started leading laughter classes around the country, which, is nothing compared to Michael's PhD level of laughter. We were not that advanced, but we still were teaching laughter. So one of the classes I taught at the time was what laughter teaches us about living and dying. And it was so much about what he taught us. It was about being present and about being neutral, being aware of where we're stuck and what we're holding on to. He would definitely laugh with us a lot, at us occasionally, and about letting go, self-forgiveness. And one of the primary things for me was learning from Michael that we can choose and make a decision to smile or laugh at any moment. So when I'd see Michael at retreats or in town, he would jokingly say, "How's the Death is Fun tour going, Jen?" And then, of course, he would laugh and laugh and laugh, and I would laugh too. But honestly, inside my head, I was thinking, oh my God, you can't put those words together. Do you want to get me killed or something? Stop. But anyway, he affectionately referred to my work as the Death is Fun tour for a long time. And even for me, it seemed that joke was taking it just a little bit too far. But, death isn't usually fun for those of us who are still on Earth and in these bodies. So I really did look at what did he really mean by that? And very recently, these are a few of the things I realized. I felt like he was reminding me to really stay in my own amusement, and he was being my cheerleader. And he was and is all of our cheerleaders. He kept encouraging us. He keeps encouraging us to be who we are. And the other part I realized is that he didn't necessarily mean fun of the near-death experiences. Death is fun, dying is fun. He did that many times. He kept coming back. He didn't necessarily mean that. But literally on the plane ride here, which I was thinking, that's this leg of the Death is Fun tour. You are part of this leg of that tour. Aside from teasing me, when he said death is fun, for him, it was no different than saying life is fun. And it's the same thing. And he truly chose fun and joy and laughter no matter what. So I imagine him now laughing and saying, see everyone? Isn't this fun? And we're no, we're not Michael Tamura. But anyway, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for truly helping me experience that it is all good news, and that it can be fun even when I'm in tears, and because I get to keep growing and learning and awakening. So thank you so much to Michael Tamura for showing me the way.
Really nice to see a lot of faces I haven't seen in a while in person. This is great. Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Donaldson. My experiences with Michael, simply put, include being a friend and a student over the past 18 years or so. Wow. So, as the years progress, Michael and Raphael have become more than friends and spiritual teachers to me. I consider them family. So, in the spirit of Michael today and our choices to experience this lifetime in our male bodies, the title of what I'm sharing with you today is Celebrating Life with Michael. We are friends, family, and fathers. I'm just going to look at my kids in the back here just to get a moment here. Thanks. It's difficult to find the words that truly describe or define my relationship and spiritual connection with Michael, or how it plays out in our experiences together. I say plays out in present tense because we're still connected and I still communicate with him, just no longer in the present, in the physical. We are friends, we are teachers for each other, we help each other heal, and although we don't look much alike or come from the same family, we are brothers. So my reference to Michael is he's my brother from another mother. That's it. And one more thing that we have in common in this lifetime, we both took on the role of fathers. Many of my one-to-one conversations with Michael were brief but impactful. And yes, you can have a brief conversation with Michael, that's a thing. We often talked about sports, hobbies, movies, TV shows, music, along with various topics about what we were dealing with for the day. And one thing often came up was family. One of us often asked the other, "Hey, how are the kids?" And a short conversation about our kids followed. The love, the joy, the laughter, and the enthusiasm that filled the room when we talked about our kids was palpable. We were like two kids in adult bodies, sharing details of our children's spiritual journey, life discoveries, and successes. These talks were often a highlight of the day for me. In Michael's book, You Are the Answer, there is a passage about forgiveness on page 191. Quote, "Forgiveness is love giving us yet another chance to learn, to heal, and to fulfill our purpose. Like a compassionate mother, forgiveness kisses us despite our mud and tear-streaked faces and gently cleanses our scraped knees and wounded feelings." Interesting enough, the first person that came to mind after reading this passage for the first time was my father. So I'm going to share a little personal story around that experience. My father lost his father at age 8. My grandmother never remarried, so my father and his brother grew up with their mother holding down both parental roles. Boys and young men growing up without the guidance of a father or male father figure was common within the community where my father and I grew up. Through my teenage years, my father made himself available to many of these young men. This is what he was guided to do, because he was making a difference in the lives of these young men, while it also helped him heal from his own experience of loss. Now, as a young teen, let's say there were times when that wasn't so clear to me as it is now. Right? We all have those growth periods. So things quite often got a little skewed in my relationship with my dad. So as Michael often encouraged, blow the pictures, right? This was his way of saying, let go and forgive. I blew the pictures of my dad not being there for me as I thought he should be. I blew the pictures of other boys taking my dad away from me because that wasn't true. Through this awareness, I experienced newfound forgiveness and freedom, and it came about through Michael's teachings. My relationship with my father strengthened, and we found more common ground. But wait, there's more. Recently, after Michael's passing, the pictures of me not honoring my father's spiritual path and my part in it unfolded again. My father helped a lot of those young men mainly because he knew I was okay and had everything I needed, even if I couldn't appreciate that at the time. I now had to forgive myself. My beautiful wife, Yvonne, as I shared this recent experience, pointed out now that I have forgiven myself, I'm in a better position and place to let my father move on as he prepares for his transition. Forgiveness opens the door to expressing gratitude. And to bring this to a close, I'd like to share some of what Michael's teachings and passing has brought forward in my heart to express today. For everyone here, particularly, and those that are on Zoom and other media, and particularly the males who have come forward to participate in the sacred dance that brings balance to the divine masculine and the divine feminine in ourselves and in the world, I express my love and gratitude. For all the fathers who share their love and compassion with their families and others who are less fortunate or need a loving reminder we are spirit, I share my love and gratitude. And for all the children who have taken on loving and sometimes challenging experiences with fathers on spiritual journeys, I express my love and gratitude to you most of all. So in that spirit, to Michael's children, to my children, to all the children in the spiritual community, including the spirits of our own inner child, thank you for being present and part of the journey, the lessons, the healing, and the fulfillment of our purpose. Thank you, Michael. Peace be with you, brother.
Hello, my name is Amy Lee, and I'm a student of Michael's. I've been with him, studying with him for about 14 years, so I'm one of the newbies in the group. One thing we all knew and loved about Michael was his sense of humor and his happiness for joy. That's what he taught us. Michael's humor got me through everything. Back in 2018, I was living here in California with my husband and 2 kids, having recently moved from Hawaii. Even though we were living here in California, we really missed Hawaii. It was a special place for us. We continued to dream about living there again one day. Eventually, we came upon a fixer-upper house in Hawaii, and we decided to purchase it as a second home. It was located in Kapoho, on the east side of the Big Island. My husband spent the next year fixing it up and renovating it with his own hands. We wanted to have a place where we could spend time as a family, as well as share it with others, and offer it as a sanctuary space for healers and tourists. It was such a beautiful, magical place. The house was yards from the ocean and had its own natural warm pond in the backyard. And this pond was filled with a mixture of geothermal hot spring water and ocean water. So it rose and fell with the tides each day. Everyone who got to experience this place said that it was such a deeply healing and special place. I had the same experience. In the meantime, while my husband was fixing up the house, I was finishing up the Levels program. I had been taking my time in the Levels. I began with when Michael taught it live the first time at level 1. Initially, it's supposed to be a 2-year program. Well, I was 8 years into the program by that point. But towards the end, I heard a voice. It said, "Finish it now." So I did, finally. I graduated from the Levels program and joined SHAPE, the advanced group. When I first joined, I thought I would just sit in the back and be comfy and cozy and hide out and not say anything. Well, that wasn't quite the plan. Shortly after joining, the Kilauea volcano started erupting on the Big Island. I wasn't that concerned at first because the lava was erupting like 8 miles away. And, I thought, that's enough distance. It won't come to cover our newly renovated home, right? However, over the course of weeks, it flowed and traveled exactly to our neighborhood and covered all the homes, including our home, under 40 feet of lava. At first, it was devastating. I experienced a great amount of sorrow and grief. We had put so much work into creating that home and wanted so much to be able to share it with everyone. In the span of a morning, our dreams were dashed. But then, in the face of this dramatic event, this is when Michael's teachings and guidance kicked in big time and was there for me when I needed it the most, because it helped me bring my focus back to spirit. In spirit, this was just a house. It was created in time and space. As with all things in time and space, it was temporary. It may have been the end of this house, but not the end of spirit. As Michael showed us over and over again, spirit is limitless, eternal, and all-knowing. It's the truth. There is no beginning nor ending. Being able to experience this truth with the support of Michael, Raphael, and the entire spiritual community was a huge blessing to me in my time of sorrow and grief. Within days of the event, I could even start joking a little bit about my experience. The aloha-ha-ha-ha-has and the I love you jokes came back into rotation. I even saw the dolphins whom Michael introduced me to, wearing big smiles with sunglasses on and serving me up a platter of fish in consolation for my house burning down. It was quite the sight. In the laughter, I was willing to let go. That was Michael's specialty, reminding me to laugh. I hope and know that as we continue on our path in community, we are able to remind each other of the humor that life is. Thank you, Michael, for your intense dedication and serious commitment to helping us remember our amusement and our spiritual path. Michael always teaches by demonstration. He named this year's SHAPE curriculum Transcend Dance. I gotta say, Michael definitely transcended this year, and he is absolutely dancing. Thank you.
I'm Lori St. Clair, and first things first, let me say hello to everyone here, everyone watching worldwide, and that right there is one of Michael's main teachings. Hello. Very powerful and very simple. It begins communication. It validates each and every one of us as spirit, and it brings us to the present moment. And in this present moment, I am honored to be here celebrating my mentor and my dear friend. And when I was told I had 5 minutes to do that, I thought, I'm gonna need the Mission Impossible theme playing. And I thought, wait, I'm gonna do that Michael thing. And I'm gonna talk for an hour. And I'm gonna put everybody into a coma. And you're gonna wake up drooling. And you're gonna think it's been 5 minutes. Right? And you all know what I'm talking about. So, thank you. And I have no notes because, exactly, thank you. I have no notes because that's how I definitely knew Michael was my teacher, because he doesn't like notes, and I never did notes in school, so I thought, great. But the first time I saw Michael speak, there was probably about 85 people in the room, and I was sitting way in the back, and I was well into my spiritual journey. And then I was about to take a really big step up, and he's talking, and I'm sitting in the back, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? Because this big wave of energy just came up on my side, and I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And of course, in true Michael fashion, we call him Santa Claus, because he knows when you are sleeping, he knows when you're awake, and all the rest of it. In response to my thought, he says, maybe some of you might be feeling some energy, something in your body. And I'm thinking, that's an understatement, all right? And he says, well, I was told that I can no longer do individual healings. I have to do all my healings while I'm talking. And I thought, well, isn't that convenient for all of us? And what a blessing. And I was like, that's it. I'm sold. You know, if I can come to a talk and get a healing, amazing. So that was about 2005, and I continued to go to everything he was offering to the public, and I know he has his different advanced programs, which I never got quite into shape, so I'm kind of, I look like I'm in shape, but I'm not quite in shape. I'm really good at that. And, and obviously Michael is always encouraging, but as many people have, Anthony, when he was talking about how he would talk to Michael about family, last year I was pet sitting for Michael and Raphael, and they were going down to Nick's wedding. And when Michael came back, I was so touched at how he spent so much time talking to me about every single detail of the wedding and how everyone came together and how it was so beautiful. And he was so touched by the love and how everyone would just get together and help each other out. And that always impressed me, that Michael, no matter what, family was always, or is, as I know, so important to him. And his students are exactly his family. And he always shows up in integrity, in humor, and there you go, over time. And there you go, humor, ding, ding, ding. But such an honor for me to be here and to share with you my journey with him. And at first, I thought, what an honor to be asked. And then, of course, I went into panic. And I heard Michael, the ego is the biggest con artist. Thank you all so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samir. I'm Michael's student. I learned so much from him. And interestingly, some of my favorite lessons came from watching him outside of a class setting. Just Michael walking his talk while he's living his life. I was lucky enough to travel with him a few times. And there is one thing I saw him do consistently. In every situation and every place we went, he was always giving to others. No matter where he was or what was happening around him, he would always offer something to whoever and whatever was in front of him. My favorite example of this happened when we were traveling in India on a Buddha pilgrimage, visiting many of the sites and spots that were significant in Buddha's life. The highlight of the trip was visiting Bodh Gaya, where we spent almost 2 days sitting in meditation under the Bodhi tree, the very spot where Buddha attained his enlightenment. Buddha's energy was very present and palpable over there. So when I sat down to meditate and Lord Buddha showed up, I asked him for his guidance and my next steps on my spiritual awakening. Back then, I thought it was pretty noble to ask for spiritual guidance rather than material benefits like health, wealth, and wife. What I didn't realize back then was where I was coming from was still an energy of wanting. Michael, on the other hand, when he sat down to meditate and Lord Buddha showed up, he offered to Lord Buddha, "What can I give to you?" And he went on to help by grounding the whole place, cleaning up the energies, communicating with the beings over there, and raising everyone's happiness for the healing and blessings that are available in that sanctuary. The energy work that Michael did and the level of awareness that he held allowed Lord Buddha to officially hand over his torch to Lord Maitreya. Michael held the space for that ceremony of transition to happen, after which Lord Maitreya was able to seed a new energy and light in Bodh Gaya and on this planet. This momentous milestone in humanity's history happened because Michael traveled to the other side of the planet, sat under a tree, and said, "What can I give here?" After our Bodhi tree meditations, we would walk around and visit some of the monasteries nearby. Often, Michael would ring the prayer bells that were established in some of those places. Again, I noticed he never asked anything for himself. Every time he rang a prayer bell, he said a prayer for all of humanity and the whole world. He was always giving to others. Every person he met during our travels, from guides to clerks, to porters, to rickshaw drivers, to beggars, he would always offer them something, a tip, a hello, a healing, a blessing. He was always giving to others. Michael, thank you for all your teachings, both in class and by embodying and demonstrating them in your own life. I learned so much from you. I am deeply, deeply grateful for all that you gave. Mahalo.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Ike, and I was a student of Michael's for about 13 years, and what a joy. And as you've already heard in many different ways and experienced yourself, no surprise, Michael liked humor. Michael loved to laugh. I always was so moved by seeing that his love of laughter was something that started with the joy as the spiritual being that he was. The laughter and the humor were part of what his sharing was all about, that natural outpouring. As a teacher, humor was one of his incredibly powerful tools as far as I noticed. Some of his profound sayings, "Me want a cookie." Cookie deep. Nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms. He loved using those and so many more phrases that I'm sure you all have your great memories of, right? And they had their purpose. Absolutely. One of the things that I was so moved by and learned so much from was him saying so many times, you can't laugh and hold on to pain at the same time. It's amazing to hear that. It's whoa, very profound. And the invitation was always, which one are you going to choose? Would you rather be happy or would you rather be in pain? The other thing that he would often say is, careful, when I'm laughing is when I'm my most potent. And at the heart of that, he said, is because I'm in effortlessness. That, again, was an incredible teaching tool for me. He was so masterful with his humor during class. Much like we've all been on airplanes, you know how the airplanes have the oxygen mask that comes down when the plane loses its altitude. Well, Michael used that same skill during class when we were all going down with the ship. If we were stuck staring at something in heavy energy, whatever that was, he would drop down his humor, his puns, his bad jokes, so that we could laugh or at least snap out of whatever it was we were staring at to say, what was that he just said? What did he just do? But really, it was a wonderful invitation to let go. If you're laughing, you're going to let go. And for me, I was always amazed at how that flow of letting go, laughing at what he just said, I immediately forgot, what was I staring at again that I was so unhappy about? I'm sure it was something, but I can't remember. And it brought me right back to the truth of myself, and I really realized that later, but in the moment I was just experiencing the truth of myself as the being that I am, and all is well, and all is really well. And yes, he loved laughing at his own jokes, and I'm sure all of you can attest that he sometimes laughed loudest at the ones that made us groan. Why that is, I don't know. I think he just had so much more entertainment from that. But one of the things I felt like he was always teaching me, or how it struck me in particular, was he was always showing me that humor is not something that's throwawayable. That humor, he was the first teacher, the first human, to show me that humor is valid and valuable in this life and in this world. It actually serves a purpose It isn't just something where you're cracking a joke. You are helping people let go and become aware of the truth that they really are and that really all is well. And that will always stay with me. Somebody mentioned playfulness. I believe it was Elizabeth. Oh boy, the playfulness. Again, something that was a natural outpouring of his joy. And something that I know and many, we delighted in his playfulness. Sometimes I felt like I could see the 5-year-old Michael emerge for a moment, you know, and then go back to being Michael. There's one particular time that I recall with Michael and playfulness and puns. We would every year join Michael and Raphael at their retreat in Burlingame. And for those that remained after the weekend, we would find ourselves going downtown, and we would follow Michael and Raphael into one of their favorite shops, this pet supply and gift shop. Had these amazing things, including amazing animal puppets. And I'm minding my own business. I feel a tap on the shoulder, only to discover I'm face to face with a giant otter puppet, and that the puppeteer is Michael. And I don't know what I was more delighted by, that I was talking to an otter, or that Michael, my spiritual teacher, was holding this puppet. And of course, he couldn't resist saying, "Hello, Stephanie, you really otter by me." You know? One of my favorite experiences among the many incredible, valuable things that he taught as a teacher in class was the times on a personal level, one-to-one, where we found ourselves joking around. The joking around was like we were playing volleyball with each other with a mental image picture. And what I found was so amazing that really he only needed to say 2 words like, "and then," and we would crack up. And then I'd get the volleyball and I'd say, "Yeah, but," and we would crack up because we were seeing the picture that we were playing with. And it was such a joy to share that with him. And I know that and many other ways in which he was trying to, again, validate for me, yes, humor is okay. In fact, it's very needed. And it was such a healing for me, that those kind of moments of that playfulness with him, because in those moments of the volleyball joking around, I realized, holy cow, we are being beings right now, way more than we're being bodies. We are living it right here, right now, and yes, it's laughter, but this is how it can be. And it was so effortless, so validating, so very fun. And Michael, I will always laugh, smile, and giggle when I think of you. When I talk with you, you have touched me in so many ways and touched my life and changed my life. And thank you very much. Keep on laughing.
Bill Bennett is the award-winning Australian filmmaker who invited Michael to be interviewed for both his popular films, PGS, Intuition is Your Personal Guidance System, and Facing Fear, which are available for online viewing. Bill had a unique healing experience when he first met Michael, which he wants to share with everyone, and he will be on film here.
G'day, my name is Bill Bennett. I want to tell you about how I met Michael Tamura. It gives you some idea of what an extraordinary person he was and still is. I was starting to film a documentary on intuition, which ended up being called PGS, Intuition is Your Personal Guidance System. We'd been filming with James Van Prague, and he asked, where are we going to next? And I said, well, we're heading to Mount Shasta. We hear that that's a kind of a spiritual place. And he said, well, if you're going to Mount Shasta, you must look up Michael Tamura. He's a good friend of mine, and he does things that I've never seen anybody else do. And I thought, I wonder what that is. Anyway, I had had a chronic cough. I picked it up about 12 months earlier walking the Portuguese Camino. This cough was so bad that the night before I was due to meet Michael, I woke up at about midnight in a coughing fit, and I put the sheet of the bed that I was sleeping in, I put it over my mouth and coughed. The next morning I woke up and it was covered in blood. I had tried everything to get rid of this cough. I just simply couldn't. I've been on antibiotics. I've gone to several doctors, which I don't normally do. Nothing could shift this cough. I did have some medication that stopped the coughing for about 3 or 4 hours, but it didn't fix it. It just stopped the cough. So I knocked on the door of Michael's place in Mount Shasta the morning that we were due to do the interview. He took one look at me and he said, "You need a healing." And I thought, boy, you're right on that, mate. And he said, he invited me to come in, and while the crew was setting up, he sat me down. We're quite a distance away, and he said that he was going to do, I guess you'd call it a psychic healing. Now, at this point in my whole spiritual growth, if you like, I was a little bit leery about stuff like this. I was a little bit skeptical and a little bit suspicious. But I thought, well, you know, the crew's setting up. I've got about 15, 20 minutes. Why not? Let's go through this and see what happens. So Michael sat a good deal distance away from me, and he kind of went into this sort of zone. His sort of eyes sort of rolled up, and he flickered like this, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to have an epileptic fit. And he snapped his eyes open, and then he described this young woman. He said, you had a relationship with this young woman, and he described her in such vivid detail that it was though this woman was actually in the room with me, and he was describing her, not generalities, specifics. And he mentioned specifics about the nature of the relationship. And he said the nature of the relationship finished badly, and I said, yes, it did. And he said, she's still angry with you, and I said, yes, probably, and she's probably got every right to be. And he said, and she's strangling you around the throat. And I said, yeah, that'd be right. She was like that. And he said, do you want me to take her off you? And I said, yes, please. So anyway, he then went into this whole kind of thing, and you know, going like this, and this, and he was using his hands like this, and it was a bit weird. You know, I've got to say, it was a bit weird. But you know, the cameraman was setting up, and I had nothing else to do for 20 minutes, and then he finished all of that, and then he shut his eyes again, and the eyes kind of rolled in the back of his head, and he was fluttering like this, and then bang, the eyes opened up again, and he said, all right, you were a political activist during the Middle Ages. I see you in a village square. You are in stocks. You're bound in these stocks. And there are all of these villages around, and you have been speaking out against the church and the hypocrisy of the church. And what the church men have done is they have bound you in these stocks, and they have slit your throat so that you'll die slowly in front of all of the villagers as a, don't speak out against the church, otherwise we're going to slit your throat. And he said, do you want me to heal that? And I said, yes, please. So anyway, he went like this with his hands, like this. And then he said, eyes open, and he said, all right. So I thought, well, that was a very interesting little exercise. So I did the interview, and it was a wonderful interview, and he features very, very prominently in the film. Michael has the most extraordinary way of putting into words complex thoughts that there's never been an interviewee like Michael Tamura. He was really quite extraordinary in the film. And he then featured in the subsequent film that I did on fear called Facing Fear. Anyway, so we packed up and drove off, and it was sometime later that afternoon, the cameraman turned around to me and said, "Bill, you're not coughing." I went, He said, "You haven't coughed ever since we left Michael Tamura's place." Now, that medication that I had only lasted about 3 or 4 hours, then I go back in my chronic coughing. And you've got to understand, this coughing is so bad that literally neighbours would complain. I could not hold a conversation for more than a minute, 2 minutes before I would be coughing really badly. The cameraman said, "You haven't coughed since you left Michael Tamura's." And you know what? I haven't coughed, really, to this day. Michael cleared that cough. Now, he was a turning point in my life, because every single other way that I could imagine of trying to cure that cough never worked. Michael cured that cough. And to me, it just changed my whole way of thinking. It literally changed my whole way of thinking. And I then approached that documentary on intuition with a newfound belief. He was amazing.
Wow. The second quote from Michael's book, You Are the Answer, comes from page 182. Of course, you might say all miracles come from God, but where does God reside if not in each one of us? Remember, we all began as God seeds, and God's seeds must grow into God trees that eternally produce all fruits of divinity. This is the fulfilling of your soul purpose, and this is the greater miracle. For without miracles, we cannot hope to accomplish the miraculous. You must be able to pull those miracles out from a hat, and that hat is you.
I guess most of you know who I am, but I'll say anyway. My name is Michael Tamura. Thank you. I'm Michael's wife, and what an amazing service this has been. I love all the stories of all our students over here, and I know everybody attending here has amazing stories of their own. And be sure to share them with each other after the end of this. When we're serving food out there, it's going to be really good food. Oops, that went right to my nose. I also wanted to say hello to those who are watching this online. I know it's a little long, but it's worth it. So before I give my talk, I have to wear my glasses here because I'm getting old. I want to thank everyone who has been deeply involved in helping me to put this event together, especially behind the scenes over there, Danny Michelle, our expert on all the tech that you've been able to watch. Elizabeth Dunleavy is mistress of ceremonies. Yvonne Donaldson, Anthony Donaldson, Jen Matthews, and the rest of you who lent any kind of support to the creation of this celebration for the life of Michael Tamura. I thank you with all my heart. It is an amazing community, and Michael was all about community. Well, here's my talk, and I do need notes because I'm not very good at spontaneous. There are times when it is exceedingly difficult to find the right words to describe someone like Michael.
Recently, a friend of ours described him in the best way I have ever heard. She said, "In the world of spirituality and healing, Michael is a mega force." Mega force. I wholeheartedly agree with this. He and the work he did here on earth, all those spiritual counselings, 40 years worth or more, energetic healings, and so on, the unbelievable number of classes he created since he was 20 years old, the speeches and interviews and talks, plus all he created for people to have a unique space to heal themselves, to go on to have happier, healthier, and more deeply spiritual lives. From the higher perspective, I'm sure Michael's work did not go unnoticed. As a result, many real miracles manifested in his life, and he became a living example through his work of dedication and devotion to the pursuit of the truth. He always liked the saying, "And the truth shall set you free." I want to speak a little bit about this friend who called Michael a megaforce. She is a Cherokee dreamwalker, a woman who has a talent of bringing back important dreams with messages from the spirit world in her unique way, complete with songs, some she's never even heard of, that also put emphasis on those messages. In her day life, she is a capable psychotherapist. Kimberly Ruff was one of the first people to contact me with messages from Michael after he died. She was quite upset when she heard Michael had passed and asked up to Spirit, "Why? Why Michael?" As I'm sure many of you asked the same question. She was told in her dream that Michael was needed for the higher purpose to help with some of the world's issues right now, especially regarding children, both in Israel and Palestine, as well as in the Russia-Ukraine-China tensions. The song she received for that was Joni Mitchell's Jericho. Michael had a special love for children, especially his own and any child who might be suffering or in need in some way. After any of his numerous near-death experiences, Michael was told many times that he had a choice to come back to Earth because what he was doing here was going to help more people on this side of the veil. He always said yes to this request. So apparently, now the work he needs to do is more in the line with the Masters of Wisdom of this planet to help support it on a more global level. In the Eastern thought of Buddhism, there is an idea that an advancing soul who is getting close to enlightenment or is fully enlightened can, by his own free will, become what is called a bodhisattva. This is one who chooses not to go all the way back to the oneness of spirit or God, to merge back with it, but rather stays behind for a time on a higher level above the physical plane to help out with the immense suffering on this planet. An example of how this works is Buddha's bodhisattva vow was to stay in the in-between state until all his disciples were also enlightened. In thinking about this, I believe Michael is also staying in a place like this right now, with the intention of helping to energetically support the transition of this planet, especially in association with the children and innocents who are affected negatively by what is happening on Earth at this time. He is also still helping and supporting all the students he himself had. And I'm sure you all know that too. As you all know, our planet is going through an enormous transformation and lifting up of the energy here, and it is messy and difficult in that process. Michael often likened any growth period, as we like to call it, that's growth period, sometimes gross period, but growth period will do, whether individual or planetary like this, to a construction site. Please excuse the mess and dust. It will be beautiful when it is finished. So if you were wondering about Michael's passing or why Michael's passing was so sudden, perhaps this answers that question for you. For me, this resonated as very true. I want to mention that others have written to me poignant letters with stories of touching in with the essence or spirit of Michael, which I will be happy to share in personal conversations. And of course, I have had my own astral and meditative contact with Michael in the past 5 weeks. He brings fun phenomenon my way. He says hello. And he has appeared in my dreams multiple times already, which I'm really excited about. One of them was really fun, but you can ask me about that later. Some of the signs he has sent, because I asked him not to be creepy about... No, really, there's a story actually behind that, in that just a few days before he died, we had so much phenomenon in our house. Our lights were flashing, and I pointed up to them and I went, I know that spirit. Don't do that creepy stuff if you go before I do. So the signs he sent to me are rainbows, hoot owls, and also, one of my favorite things, very specific numbers. Here's one story you might enjoy, though it is a little sad too, and some of you don't know about this. Amid all the changes that are going on in my life right now, 8 days ago, I had to finally put down our beloved male cat, Merlin, who had been critically ill for the past 2 months and could no longer have medical intervention. As I was driving to the vets in Sacramento with Merlin in a crate beside me to get this done, I had been in a nonstop conversation with Michael. Meanwhile, Merlin was nonstop crying as he never liked going to the vets, and he knew he was going to the vets because he was in his crate. It is a 30-minute drive there, but as I got within half a mile of the place, I started getting cold feet about doing this, even though I knew in my heart of hearts it was time. I asked, not out loud, but in my head out to Spirit, please, could you just give me one more little sign that I am doing the right thing? I don't like having to put my pets down, even when they really need it, as Merlin did. Within less than 1 second of my sending out that plea for confirmation, a truck suddenly pulled in front of me, and I noticed his license plate right away. The first four numbers on it were 4404. These are the final 4 numbers of Michael's cell phone number. And also, the number 444 represents the presence of angels, if you are familiar with numerology. This is often how Spirit speaks to me. With this, I was able to take care of this unpleasant task without feeling horrible about it. I knew my little guy was in good hands. So be sure to validate these experiences and treasure them. They are truly a gift from heaven. And make sure to share them with one another, and also me. I love hearing your stories, if you like. You have already heard some of the more amazing aspects about Michael from the other speakers, and suffice it to say that each one of them has many more miracle stories of growth and personal transformation to tell after being Michael's student or friend in some way. Each one of us is walking away from our time with Michael with something of great meaning which he offered us this lifetime, through his teaching and by his living example. Personally, I feel nothing but gratitude for this. One of the things that Michael valued over just about everything else was clear communication. Michael was, above all, a communicator, a master teacher, and a storyteller. He often taught by telling stories with concepts he was trying to teach, but they were just not getting through to his students, or anyone who would listen to him for that matter. But I'm finding him to also be an excellent communicator now that he is in spirit. If you want to experience him, all you need to do is ask him to say hello to you. But be sure to say hello first. Somebody talked about that. It's all about hello. This gets to the part we're trying to talk about all the amazing qualities and gifts of Michael Tamura can go on as long as one of his weekend seminars. Michael is an amazing and gifted soul, and he is still very obviously continuing his work in the spirit planes and closely with each one of us. He has already visited so many of you and me already with his smile or the sound of his laughter and joy, his peacefulness, playfulness, or wisdom. I know this because I have received literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of messages on every format you can imagine about this. Some of them I didn't even know existed. These are but a few of his amazing qualities, which I know endure beyond the confines of the physical body he had this lifetime. So let's talk a little bit about his body for a moment, which the remains are right here. For we are, after all, celebrating his liberation from this lifetime he lived as Michael Tamura, to do his higher work as a soul. As you know, Michael was born as any human being to loving parents, Ray and Kay, and as a naturalized U.S. citizen due to the fact that he was born on a U.S. military base in Sendai, Japan, where his father was employed by the U.S. government. He had a fairly ideal childhood, but he longed from an early age to go to the U.S., where his heart was. He wanted to be a doctor, but found it was too restricting and not always real healing as he perceived healing, even as a young person. So he went on the beginning of his search and found his teacher in Louis Bostwick, who sent him on his pathway to become the amazing clairvoyant visionary, spiritual healer, teacher, author, speaker, radio show host, and everything else he became in the course of his lifetime. Michael used to say, we are beings because we are always being something. He liked to encourage us to use our imagination, to be something we would enjoy, something which fulfilled us, something we can share with others to help them in their next steps, and something which ultimately gives us purpose in our lives. He wrote his book, You Are the Answer, about this. Back to the body, though. He taught adamantly that we are not the body, we are the soul which animates the body. In fact, one thing he would say with a great deal of amusement is, if you, the soul, were not there, the body would be just a corpse. Okay, then. One of my observations of Michael from the beginning of our relationship was that he is huge as a spirit. Yes, if a soul had a size, then Michael's soul was way, way too big for his somewhat diminutive 5'6" body. In fact, I didn't even realize he was that short for the longest time. I'm taller than him. If this is even possible, then perhaps it would explain why his body this lifetime could not very well handle the enormous energy and power of his soul and life force. Another thing which Michael talked about was the question he was often asked regarding why life could be so tough for so many of us. He would say, and I agree wholeheartedly with this, the tougher the life, the more opportunity for mastery you can attain, and the more progress toward your freedom or ascension can be accomplished within a single lifetime. He encouraged people to not get discouraged with the extensive and complicated challenges in their lives. And he lived this too. For instance, one might wonder what kind of vast challenge can one such accomplished soul be faced with? Michael always said he lived a charmed life, and in many areas of his life he actually did. However, he did have one thing that surfaced to the top, which started the late night of his 40th birthday. It was revealed that the major challenge for him this lifetime would be an extensive 30-year-long list and journey of physical diseases, though we didn't know it at the time. We had no idea in those first years how difficult those challenges would be. But with each one, I watched him face them with courage, cheer, grace, strength, and faith in God unlike anyone else I've ever observed. A compassionate man to start with, his lineup of illnesses over those 30 years only gave him more compassion, limitless humor, including laughing at himself and his own infirm at times, and one of the most important qualities, extraordinary love and understanding of the suffering of others. Some people judge people with health challenges as something being wrong with them, spiritually speaking. I hear this a lot in the metaphysical communities. But I beg to politely disagree with this. Sometimes the most growth we can attain can be through such a set of challenges in spite of how others might judge them. And Michael was always, and I do mean always, up for the lessons in healing and love and forgiveness his health challenges brought him. As I was originally creating this presentation, I had written down all the details about what he went through with his health. But in the end, I thought better of actually including it. It is a long and impressive list, which might have been pretty upsetting for some of you to listen to. It was upsetting for me to write it down, and by the way, it was 3 pages long. Yeah. So I'm sparing you of that. In some ways, thanks, right? In some ways, I can hardly believe one man bore that load. In a belief system called theosophy, it is taught that once a person is done fulfilling their karma for a lifetime, the advancing soul will sometimes take on some of the greater karmas in the world to help the world. The initiate who does this advances on their path closer to their full spiritual freedom, and meanwhile, some of the karma from the people of planet Earth is quietly and behind the scenes cleared away. I believe it is altogether, this is why Michael had so many illnesses. He was a healer to the core and wanted to help as many people as possible, which in my observation, he absolutely accomplished. Michael worked hard, he played hard, he loved the good things in life, including food and fun and dolphins and creating art. He enjoyed electronics and music and sports, especially baseball, and he loved the great outdoors. He was a traveler in the world and out of his body. He meditated often and deeply. He was a thoughtful, sensitive, loving man who I have always felt beyond lucky to have as my husband and partner in everything that we did. I thank you, Michael, with all my heart and soul for all you brought to me and everyone whose lives you touched. Bon voyage, and I'll see you whenever you show up. That's the end of my talk. Thank you. Actually, I realize it's not the end of my talk. Sorry. So you'll get to clap for me twice. I'd like to finish up with some quotes from one of the non-Michael spiritual teachings I am very fond of, something called A Course in Miracles, also known as ACIM. I asked our 2 very dear friends, authors Gary Renard and Cindy Laura Renard, Cindy's here today, who are deeply involved in the ACIM teachings, to send me some selections from ACIM on death. So I wish to thank them for sending me some perfect choices that I wish to share with you. So here they are, and please notice, if you are a student of Michael's, how close these are to some of what Michael taught about death and everlasting life. Note that Michael, unlike me, hardly ever cracked open an ACIM book. So here was the offering from Cindy, this ACIM quote. Life has no opposite, for it is God. Life and death seem to be opposites because you have decided death ends life. Forgive the world, and you will understand that everything that God created cannot have an end, and nothing he did not create is real. Think about that one. And then the one Gary sent me, I love this one too. The world is not left by death, but by truth, and truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. Well, I hope this chat has given some information and comfort to those of you grieving for Michael. Please try to remember, instead of having to call our office to get a message to him, you may now do that merely with a thought. True story. Or your attention in his direction. Talk to him anytime, and if you listen, you will get an answer. Or at the very least, he will laugh at you one more time and remind you to get into a little more amusement and to practice grounding and all your spiritual tools. That is the end of my talk. So if that's the end of my talk, why am I still up here? I'm introducing the next part. All right. For the expediency of time, I would like to introduce the next part of our program. We have happily received permission from the owners of the following popular song, You Raise Me Up, to use it for this memorial service in dedication to Michael. This song, originally written to honor Jesus, ended up being my personal theme song for all that Michael has given, his love, his communication, his gifts, his generosity of spirit, and so much more. It is about knowing and understanding when we are seeking our own way that sometimes we need someone to help hold us up until we can do it on our own. For you, Michael, who helped me and helped raise up everyone whose lives you've touched during these years of your teaching and supporting all of us on our spiritual paths, I dedicate the playing of this song to you. And thank you, Danny, back in the room back there, for the wonderful array of photos depicting more of Michael's life. You might need to get out your Kleenexes. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you.
soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Today's final quote from Michael's book, You Are the Answer, comes from page 47. To express the immortality of divinity, you must face death. If you cling to fear of death, you cannot host immortality. To express the infinity of divinity, you must relinquish containment, possession, and limitation. To express the eternity of divinity, you must sacrifice the past and the future. You cannot cling to the past hurts that you didn't forgive, blame for things done, or future expectations or worries. Only in the present moment does eternity reside. These are some of the fruits of divinity that we must share. Expressing aspects of divinity means taking care of God in ourselves and in others. So, as many of you have heard and experienced, along with Elizabeth and I, we've got to spend time with Michael in Hawaii over the years. And as you can well imagine, his presence on the island would be a clarion call for all the aquatic beings to show up the moment he stuck his fins in the water. So,
Michael created a video of himself playing with Naya. So next thing you're going to be hearing is A Bright Sun Shining. This song was written and sung by Michael and collaboratively produced with Julia Harrell. It provides the soundtrack to the film by Michael called Playing with the Naya.
Somewhere in the skies, you'll always find a place to go. And when you know it's all inside, all the heavens you'll come to know. Go where no one's gone before, where only you can find to go. With unseen tears and conquered fears, on wings of joy within your soul. There's a bright sun shining behind the clouds in the sky. In every drop of rain awaits a rainbow, for every chance it has to grow. In every day of sorrow is a lifetime of happiness. Let the shining light of destiny guide you through the darkness. Somewhere in all the lies, you can always find that window where truth shines through as the morning sun and cause your soul to rise and grow. There's a bright sun shining behind the clouds in the sky. In every drop of rain awaits a rainbow, for every chance it has to grow. In every drop of rain awaits a rainbow, for every chance it has to grow.
Could you feel all the dolphins come in and just, woo, the energy? Thank you for being here to celebrate Michael J. Tamura's life and legacy. You're about to hear the last song that Michael completed this lifetime. It's called Thank You for the Blessings. Michael produced this song collaboratively with his son, Greg Tamura, and Julia Harrell. It was finished just a few weeks before Michael's passing.
Bless the day of your birth. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Every day we are born. Every day we are born. Every day we are free. Every day we are free. Woo! Woo!
You want me to blow this up?
Yes. Wish. Just don't spit on the cake. Just kidding.
The colors in my life, shining through daisies, lilacs, and you. Thank you for all the loving gifts of friends and families, insights, learning, healing, and wisdom too. The morning doves Grace brings us together, one and all. In joyous celebration, love and laughter true. To dance of the morning doves in the warmth of the midday sun. Your blessings through nature sings on and on. You showed us that our world was round. It's we who revolve around you. It's that we share that makes us whole, warms our heart and gladdens our soul. It's only when we truly give we learn to really live. Thank you for the colors in my life, shining through daisies, lilacs and you. Thank you for all the miracles of spirit in our lives, revealing truth and beauty of life and you. The songs of the morning doves in the first glow of the dawn. The blessings of God gives on and on. The blessings of God gives on.